Hey everybody, welcome to this video. My name is Dan, and in this video, we're going to talk about depersonalization and intrusive thoughts, why you have these thoughts, what you can do to cope with them in the meantime, and then what eventually you can do to stop having these thoughts altogether and to stop your depersonalization altogether. It can be incredibly scary when you have these thoughts. A big thing for you to realize is that you don't need to be afraid of these thoughts. And I'm not trying to diminish the thought or the impact that the thought is having on you, but these thoughts aren't going to hurt you. They are only thoughts, and you do have the ability to change them. An example of this is I want you to think of a dog. Now I want you to think of a cat. Okay, that's an example of you changing your thoughts. But the one thing that we can't change is we can't change our emotions, which is our reaction to the thoughts. The emotions that you feel when you are having these thoughts can really start to tumble out of control, and they can make your anxiety worse. Realizing that they are only thoughts is going to help you in the short term. But for sure, I know it feels very real when you're going through it. And when I am working with my students to help them through dissociation or derealization, depersonalization, in the meantime, while we're sort of doing the work that we need to be able to get them through it, this is a really good coping mechanism that they find, is that realizing the thoughts would pass, and it just sort of gives them a sense of relief that they're not actually real and these things can't actually hurt you. So please bear that in mind. But how do we actually deal with these intrusive thoughts beyond just saying they'll pass? What can we actually physically do? So let's jump into it. Let's have a look at some of the intrusive thoughts that you can have with depersonalization or derealization. And these can be both things that you feel are happening internally, or they can be to do with your external world as well. So internal, you can say things like, am I going crazy? Feels like I'm just always in a dream. Am I still high? Like, am I never going to come down from these drugs I've taken? Or I feel like I'm not real. Some external thoughts are more bigger, sort of philosophical questions like, how is space possible? Why is the moon so real? How do these people even exist? How is a bird a bird? When these thoughts do keep repeating in your head, they can really make you feel you're on the verge of going crazy. And it'll start to lead to things like you'll say to yourself, well, why am I still like this? If it feels like I'm living in a dream, why am I in a dream? If it feels like I'm not real, am I real? So what actually happens with these thoughts when you do have them? So they can create emotions of fear, anxiety, panic, confusion that are really, really strong. And do you know what happens when you have these really big, strong feelings? You feel that there must be a really big and strong answer to why they're happening. So these very strong thoughts feel like they need very big answers. So you jump to the conclusion that you are dreaming, or you're not real, or you are in limbo, because these thoughts feel so strong, and they feel, the emotions that you're having feel so real and big and all encompassing, that you really need a massive answer, or there must be a massive explanation. The issue is that when you do have depersonalization or derealization, these feelings and these thoughts can actually really magnify. They can feel a lot bigger than somebody who isn't going through what you're going through. And when you're in a state of depersonalization and anxiety, you're actually unable to use the part of the brain that thinks rationally. The part of the brain which is actually getting a lot of blood flow is the limbic system. And this is the system which does deal with emotions. So it is very hard to think logically when you're in this state. So for example, when two people are arguing, they're not actually thinking rationally. A lot of the brain which is being used is the part which deals with emotions. But to be able to sort of think rationally about this, we need to use the part of the brain which does deal with logic, which is the neocortex. So you're not even capable of seeing that the simpler and real explanation is, I'm temporarily anxious right now, it'll pass. I know this is a lot easier said than done. Hey, just think rationally. So what we need to do is we need to calm the nervous system, and we need to calm your mind down to be able to physically allow your mind to start using the part of the brain which does deal with logic. What actually happens is when you're anxious, your mind jumps from thought to thought to thought. And you can call this your mind is racing. So your mind is just going from one thought, is this real or is this a dream? And how am I going to get out of this? And when is this going to end? And what's actually happening right now? And, it just goes round and round and round and round. And it can get to the point where it actually induces a panic attack. And when a panic attack happens, it's basically when you're not getting enough oxygen, your heart's racing, you might feel a little bit tingly, and you're just basically steamrolling out of control. When you do have a panic attack, it is going to make your depersonalization worse because your mind is again sensing another threat. The threat is being out of control, not knowing what's happening. And that is going to amplify your depersonalization in order to protect it. If you are having these thoughts of, am I going crazy? Is this a dream? You need to realize that you're probably highly anxious right now, which is triggering the depersonalization to happen. So you need to do your best as a coping mechanism in the meantime to sort of get you more grounded, is to realize that these are just thoughts. They're not going to hurt you. They're not going to be permanent, and they will pass. And then once you start to practice that, and once you start to actually physically get into the habit of practicing that, it is slowly going to make your depersonalization diminish and eventually go. So hang in there, my friend. It can get better. Realize that thoughts are just thoughts and you can change them. And you know what? Even as an experiment, just say to yourself, this might help. You know what? As an experiment, I'm just going to try. If I have this thought of, I feel like I'm going crazy, or is this just a dream? Say to yourself, that's just a thought. Now, why don't I change it to something more proactive or something completely irrelevant to how you're experiencing right now? And just see how your emotions might actually change to your thoughts changing, because we know that your thoughts can change just like that. If you do have any questions, please reach out to me. My contacts are in the description below. And if you did find this video useful, then please like the video and share it to anybody who you think it might help, and subscribe to the channel. So my friends, until the next video, I will speak to you all later, and have an excellent day. Bye for now.